At the end of Rebel Moon Part 1, Kora and her band of rebels defeats Admiral Noble, but a cliffhanger ending revealing Noble's resurrection sets up for an even bigger battle in the sequel, Rebel Moon Part 2 The Scargiver, which releases on April 19, 2024. When the Imperium comes to a small farming community on Veldt demanding they feed the Imperial war machine, a former Imperial soldier, Kora, seeks warriors who can help her defend her new home from the tyranny of Admiral Atticus Noble and Regent Balisarius. After gaining passage from a bounty hunter, Kora recruits former General Titus, swordfighter Nemesis, warrior Tarak, rebel leader Darrian Bloodaxe, and rebel fighter Milius. The new team narrowly escapes the betrayal of ending in a cliffhanger set up for a massive battle in Rebel Moon Part 2. Why betrayed Kora and the team. At the end of Rebel Moon Part 1, betrays the team, selling them out to Admiral Noble and the Imperium. Multiple rebel fighters die, but thanks to Gunnar finally finding a spark of courage, many of the team members manage to escape. The betrayal ultimately costs his own life. Like the rest of the rebels they recruit, Kai's planet and people had been devastated by the Imperium, so why did he betray them to Admiral Noble instead of joining them? Even if he wasn't interested in risking his life by taking a stand alongside them, he could have let them fight back on their own. Revenge is a major theme of Rebel Moon, and each of the characters have a very different relationship with it. Kai tells Kora the Imperium devastated his planet, so he has just as much reason to be motivated by either revenge or justice, but his personal trauma has made him a nihilist instead. After the Imperium destroyed his world, his takeaway was never set foot on the wrong side of history. What happened to Jimmy at the end of Rebel Moon? The Jimmies are noble robots created long ago to serve the slain King Cary Elwes, but in his absence, they have no purpose and refuse to participate in violence at the behest of any member of the Imperium under Regent Balisarius, even in self-defense. After Kora fights off the Imperium soldiers on Veldt before going to track down the other warriors, Jimmy stays behind. Jimmy isn't seen again after Kora leaves Veldt until the very end of Rebel Moon, a child of fire, when he's shown in a wheat field wearing a cloak and elaborate antler headgear without explanation. Jimmy's antler tease is a major setup for Rebel Moon Part 2, where Jimmy will have a larger character arc. In the longer R-rated cut set to release on Netflix later this year, Jimmy will have more scenes fleshing out his character arc on Veldt and explaining the sort of awakening his character goes through. But without those additional details, the scene at the end of the movie is merely a tease for what comes next in the Rebel Moon sequel. Did Noble really die? After Kai betrayed the team and sold them out to Admiral Noble and the Imperium, Kora defeats Noble and he falls off the platform to the planet below. If it wasn't dead before he fell, he certainly was afterward. Despite his mortal predicament, he's taken back aboard the Imperium dreadnought, the King's Gaze, where he's hooked up to a machine that brings him back to life. The exact nature of what happens to him isn't clear. While the machine Noble is plugged into is clearly technological in some capacity, there may be more to it than that, as it may also have an ethereal, mystical, or even extra-dimensional property to it. Who is Noble talking to on the frozen lake? Before Noble is resurrected, he's transported to a frozen lake where he converses with Regent Balisarius. Last time, Balisarius was before he became Regent of the Imperium, and now he's more than a decade older with a beard. It's not clear where this conversation actually takes place, although it doesn't seem to be an actual physical location because Noble's body is no longer injured and he's fully clothed. It could be a digital realm like the Matrix, an astral plane, or even an alternate dimension. Wherever it is, Balisarius has a level of control over it, shattering the ice with electricity using his staff and sending Noble back. There's clearly a lot going on with the ice plane, but on a functional level it could just be a means the Imperium uses to communicate across long distances. The opening of the movie shows the dreadnought coming through a portal featuring similar energy, so there's likely some sort of relationship. Even if it's simply Rebel Moon's alternative to hologram communication, that's only a partial explanation of what's going on, since it seems to also be related to Noble's resurrection, meaning there's a brain-body interface, interstellar travel, and medical application of the technology. Rebel Moon sequel setup explained. Rebel Moon Part 1 ends with a cliffhanger after Kai betrays the team. Darrian Bloodaxe and all his rebels other than Milius die, and Noble is killed by Kora before being resurrected. Kora's origin flashback revealed she was an important figure in the Imperium army, and Regent Balisarius was like an adoptive father figure to her. Now that her identity is revealed, Balisarius commands Noble to go and retrieve her alive. After she defeats him in hand-to-hand combat, the stakes are even higher since Noble's conquest against the farming village on Veldt is personal. The surviving fighters recruited by Kora, including Gunnar, Nemesis, General Titus, Tarak, and Milius, all return to Veldt, where Jimmy will also join them. Since the Rebel Moon story is heavily inspired by Seven Samurai, it's pretty clear they're going to train the villagers to defend against a counterattack by Noble and the Imperium in Rebel Moon Part 2. Although Snyder loves to subvert genre tropes and expectations, so there's still a lot of mysteries to be revealed in the sequel when it releases on Netflix April 19, 2024.